Good afternoon, everyone. LJ here, the Go Biz Guy, the podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. Okay, so I have a really good entrepreneur today. She's a business strategist, and she's a leadership coach, author, speaker. I love the fact that she's an author, speaker, and host of the She Podcast. Be seen, be heard, be empowered. She's featured author in Heart Talks Volume 1 and has spent 5 years helping women achieve their goals and build online business they love. She learned along her journey that it's not as easy to build a business from scratch as it may seem, but it's very simple and fun. Heidi works with female entrepreneurs and gives them tools and strategies to confidently build successful online businesses on their own terms, so they can create their dreams, life in themselves, loved ones, and believes each of us have a story. We're going to share those stories. And so today, I'd like to introduce to you Heidi Schacht. Heidi, welcome.
Thank you, LJ. Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here with you today.
Did I get your last name right? I always mess up people's names.
You did. Chalk. I always tell people it's chalk with an S in front of it. So Chalk is perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about, we were talking a little bit earlier and everything. And so I was going to do some business in Sarasota, but I retracted because things changed on me on some business I'm doing. So you live in Florida, and we were talking a little bit about sharks. Tell me a little bit about how come there's so many sharks?
I was born and raised in Florida, and I've always been very respectful of the living creatures inside of the ocean. I'm like, that's their world. This is mine. People are like, don't you love to go to the beach? I'm like, I love the beach. I don't love being in the water because I respect the fact that that's their world. If they bite me, I'm like, well, you live here. I don't. There are a lot of sharks sightings right now. There were a couple shark attacks. At the end of the day, the truth about sharks is they really don't want us. It's just a matter that I think they're in mating season right now, and they're in, I think it's like migration season. So that's why we're seeing a lot, especially in North Florida. I'm more in the South Florida area. So
Okay.
we're not seeing as many as they're getting ingested in the North Florida area, but the beaches have been closed, just as precautions. And we are getting a lot of rain, so there's weather things happening as well. But I have been told that if you've ever been in the ocean, and I have been in the ocean, that chances are you've been about 6 feet from a shark at any given time.
Well, I grew up in California, so I surfed a little bit. I mean, I wasn't a world dude. I mean, I didn't go to Hawaii and everything, but I surfed at this place called The Point in Ventura, California. And so at any rate, we would go out pretty far in order to catch the waves and stuff. And then there was a reef that we would surf and everything. And so what was very unusual is that we would have fish nibble at our toes while we were waiting. Yeah. Yeah. So it was quite interesting because we never really saw a shark because the waters in the West Coast are a little bit colder than they are in the East Coast. And so just another quick story. A friend of mine, many moons ago, we went down to, I think it was North Carolina or Myrtle Beach. I can't remember. And I said, I tell you what, why don't we get some rafts, those blow up rafts, and let's just go out and see how far we can go out. He said, well, okay. So we started paddling, and next thing I know, we couldn't really see the shore. And he looked at me and he said, dude, we're a little far out. I said, well, let's continue to go out a little bit further. And so all of a sudden we saw this fin.
Oh,
and we saw this fin about probably, I don't know, it must have been maybe 2 football lengths. And I said, that's probably a dolphin. He goes, dude. I said, well, let's swim towards it and see what it is. He goes, you're messed up, man. He goes, I'm getting out of here. I said, well, okay. So at any rate, we paddled as fast as we can. And they say if you stir up a lot of water, then they'll come hunt you and everything. And so that was my first exposure to really a shark and everything on the warm waters. But I mean, I just can't believe, and I understand that there's a school of fish all up and down the coast, that they're also why they're coming in so shallow is because of that those fish and everything. So,
Right.
um, so you don't really like to get into the water?
I do get in the water, but I don't go in for long and I don't go far out. And I know right now they're coming closer to shore because, as you
Yeah.
mentioned, the school of fish. But no, I'm extreme. I've been stung by a man o' war before when I was a child. That
Wow.
wasn't fun.
Yeah.
I'm not a surfer, but I do love the water. I love being on a boat. I prefer to be
Yes.
on the water, like not
Right.
in the water. Yeah, but I
Okay.
do love it. Like when the water's clear and I can
Yeah.
see what's around me, I feel more secure about it, but they also say don't swim near piers.
No,
That's
right?
another
Yeah.
place you don't want to be swimming because it attract when the fish are, when people are fishing on the pier, it attracts the sharks. So, and I
Yeah.
have also heard about like if you don't ever if you're nervous about sharks or the creatures in the water, then do not ever go up in a helicopter and fly above the ocean because
Oh,
you'll
wow.
never go in again because you actually can see all the sharks that are below it. Like you never realize when you're in the water what's really around you.
Yeah, right. I mean,
Yeah.
so in Ventura, I used to jump off the pier and try to swim back, and
Yeah.
so I did all the things that I wasn't supposed to do.
Well,
Um,
you're still here. You
yeah,
made
I'm still
it.
here, and so things are going along pretty good. But I do miss kind of living on the coast, and
Mm.
I've been snorkeling at the Keys, and that was interesting because you mentioned Man of War. My daughter and I were off, and I saw this man of war and I tapped her. I said, "I'm getting out of here," because all they do is float. They don't have eyes. They don't have a mind and everything. And so,
Mm.
you just accidentally hit them. You hit them. So,
Yeah, exactly. It's
yeah,
not
yeah.
fun.
Yeah, yeah. So listen, bring me up to date because you're doing some really good stuff on entrepreneurship and everything. What is last time we talked, we were just kind of introducing you about what you do and how you do it and everything. So bring me up to speed with how your business is doing right now.
We have a lot going on. You're right, and thank you. And I'm grateful to be back with you again. This is amazing. We do have a lot that's going on. We're doing a lot of collaborations, which is something that I really teach and promote inside of business, building a business. I'm a big promoter on networking. I think it's a key piece of your business. It's something that I was scared to do when I first started, and it held me back because I am an introvert. I was
Are you
extremely shy.
really?
I am very
Really?
much an introvert. Yes,
Oh, I don't
people are
get that for
shocked.
I don't get that from you at all, man.
I
I
know
don't want to
people
call
are.
you chick. I don't want to call you chick or anything, but you have a really positive, aggressive demeanor. So, you know.
Oh, well, thank you. I don't know if I love the word aggressive, but I'll
Okay,
take
all
that
right.
because coming from where I was extremely shy growing up. I never wanted to be on camera. I always never wanted to be in pictures. I always wanted to hide in the background. I joke now, don't be a hiding Heidi like I used to be.
Okay.
And then moving through becoming an entrepreneur, uh, you know, through my journey, that was one of the things I'm like, when I saw people doing it online, I was like, oh, they make it look so easy. Everybody's successful. They're crushing it. This should be really easy for me to do. And then all of a sudden I realized, LJ, that I actually had to be seen. I had to write content. I had to show up live. I had to, show my photos. And I'm like, oh, I can't do this.
Oh,
And
wow.
so
Yeah.
I had needed to move through that fear, which took me a while, in order to, show up and be seen. And now we have a lot going on, as you shared. We're in the top 100 Women of Power event that kicks off July 1st.
Awesome.
We're collaborating with two other bundle promotions, which is where a bunch of entrepreneurs come together and we share our products that we think would be beneficial for free, and we collaborate together to support the other entrepreneurs building businesses. Two of those events, I'm excited about those. I'm in a She Vision event, which is an event with multiple female entrepreneurs, and we're doing trainings on different facets of women entrepreneurship. So we have a few other events coming up as well. And I just really feel like as an entrepreneur, if you're building a business, whether you're brand new or you're scaling, the sooner that you can get involved and network with other entrepreneurs, the faster you're going to grow and the more fun you're going to have, which is what I'm also a recovering lone wolfer. And so I tried to do this by myself for a long time, and it really
Right.
stalled myself, and it stalled my growth, and I got burnt out, and I left for a little while and came back. And the second time I realized, I'm like, you know what, I get to do this differently. So for you, for any of you listening, like if you're scared of networking or you're scared of putting yourself out there, I totally get it. And find someone to support you, because it's way more fun when you're doing this with other people, Jay. As you know, like you and I met, and this is
Yeah.
amazing. We're collaborating, and this is
Yeah.
just so much more fun to do business this way than it is to
Yeah.
try and do this on your own.
Well, so let's back up a little bit about networking. I don't know. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, and that's okay. People call me names and stuff, and so, but I'm not a fan of like BNI. I've recommended. I've done some consulting for some high end companies and small businesses, and they said, well, I'm going to join BNI. And I said, well, I probably wouldn't do that because the ROI is probably not as efficient as one would like. I know it's about $600-700, maybe $1,000 to join. And then you stand up every week and tell your story about, I do this, I do that. And the same story goes around every week. And then somebody says, oh yeah, I think I can use your business. I don't think that's networking. What do you think?
In my opinion, that is the fear that I had moving into networking, is I saw that kind of old school way of doing it. I'm not going to say that it's not beneficial. I think any way that you can get in front of people is beneficial, as long as it has the ROI that you're looking for. So for example, for you, you didn't feel like the ROI was there, and it's not going to be there for everyone depending on what you're doing. I'm in the online space. I want to, like, my next thing is I'm getting on more stages. That's the power of networking.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
local,
Right.
and local stages is a great place to start. So if that's a platform that you can get on stage and start practicing your story and start practicing your offer and letting people know what you do and who you are, it's a great place for that. But in the online world where I spend most of my, like all my time, when I think of networking, I think about these online collaborations, these online virtual events that you can be a
Yeah.
part of, where
Right.
all of us are promoting it together. So we're sharing our audiences, and you can get in front, you can leverage other people's audiences, and you can reciprocate that. So for example, if I'm on a stage with other people, then I can have them on my stage as well. And we can leverage each other's audiences, because not everybody in my audience is going to buy from me or work with me, right? And not everybody in their audience is going to buy from them or work with them. But it's a great way to grow your audience and get in front of people, and also start practicing your messaging. Being on a podcast is a great way to start, getting comfortable with having this, conversation. And I think no matter what stage you move into, we kind of get in our comfort zone, right, LJ? Like we have our box where our comfort zone is. And
Yeah.
then every time we do something new, we're stepping out of that comfort zone. So it took me a while to get really comfortable with going live on social media. I mean, like the Facebook live stream and the Instagram, it was really hard for me. And then once I overcame that, then it was like, okay, well, now I get to get on podcasts. I used to be really scared to get on podcasts.
Really?
And yeah, and now I'm doing them all the time, and I have a podcast, Bishi, and it's so
Yeah.
much fun, and I get to meet amazing people. But whenever you're stepping out of your comfort zone, it's going to be scary. So whether you're doing a BNI, at the end of the day, I always say, make sure that whatever you decide to give your time to, or whatever stage you're going to put yourself on, or networking that you're going to be doing, look, is it going to give you the ROI that you're looking for? Do you believe it is? If it is, it's a heck yes. If it's not, then maybe that's not the place that you should be spending your time.
Well, like I said, I would consult the companies that I would consult with, and I told them, no, our time wouldn't be advised there because they were a technical company and they were large scale, small cities and municipalities and everything. And then this one guy that just started a cleaning business, and so anyway, I told him, I said, you just have, like, I kind of echoed what you said. You have to like understand the ROI. I mean, if you go there for weeks and everything, you don't get any return. Nobody asks you to clean your office or something like that. Then, you probably want to bow out and everything, and you spent $600, right? So,
Right.
yeah. So I think, when people take a look at, and you mentioned stage, let's kind of try to define stage, if you will.
Okay.
I think that once somebody goes into business for themselves, I think there's an onset of fear, period. And you had mentioned that you had a fear of, kind of, you're an introvert and now you had to be an extrovert. And so, you had to overcome a lot of things. But I think going into business, what do you think some of the fears that people, and why do you think that people want to start a business and become an entrepreneur?
Well, there's many different. I'll share my story of why I wanted to become an entrepreneur, and then I can dive into the fear of it because I'll share
Okay.
what my fears were. And my fears, there's many different fears that show up around being seen, being visible, and starting a business. When I started my business, I was moving through a divorce. I was coming out of a divorce. I had been a stay-at-home mom, and so I didn't have an income that was going to support me. But my kids were little. I had being a stay-at-home mom, I was heavily involved in taking them to school, picking them up, taking them to their activities, homework, their school functions. I was homeroom mom for both children. I was also co-chair of the auction committee. So I was heavily involved. And
Sure.
now moving through divorce, I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to be able to be as involved, but I did know one thing. I was like, what do I want when it comes to me figuring out how I'm going to bring in an income? And I was like, I want to be home with my kids. I still wanted to be able to be there, pick them up from school, take them to school, be home with them when they were home. I didn't want them to be alone or with a sitter. So that's what drove me into entrepreneurship. That being said, I didn't dive into entrepreneurship solely. I worked two jobs as I was building the business.
Okay.
And we navigated a lot of things, and I did burn out and I did step away from the business. And then I came back to it because I think when it comes to entrepreneurship, you either have that bug or you don't. And it's not for everybody, but for me, it
Okay.
was like, I always knew that this was something I wanted to do. I didn't know, even in college, I was like, I want to be an entrepreneur. I didn't know what it would look like or how I would get there. But now I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, I always had this vision. I just didn't know how it was going to show up for me. And mine came from a necessity, like a necessity of wanting to be home with my kids. So I think finding your why, and I always tell people, I'm like, find the why that makes you cry. It's not because if your why is to make money, I love it. I'm going to say that's awesome. And that's not enough. We get to go deeper into what that money is going to bring you. And sometimes when you're defining your why, it's going to take you a little bit. It takes you a little soul searching. It takes you going, getting introspective and going, okay, I want to make money, but money's not going to be enough to keep you going on this journey when it gets hard. Because there's going to be rough days. It's not all sunshine and roses.
Yeah.
Can it be fun? Absolutely. Are there big rewards in exciting days? Absolutely. Are there tough days where we got to push through? Absolutely. And when you know your why besides money, like maybe the money brings you're able to buy, health insurance for your children, or you're going to put together a college fund, or you want to retire your partner, or you want to take this big trip that's been on your bucket list, and that's the why that's driving you to keep going when those days get hard. So that's
Yeah.
the reason that I started it. So I think for everybody it's different. But I think at the end of the day, one thing is for certain: for everybody that's an entrepreneur, you have the bug. Like, you have this inner voice that's pushing you forward. And a lot of people in our inner space may not understand it, and they probably don't if they don't have that bug,
All
but
right.
you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
As far as the fears go, there's fear of judgment, which I had.
Oh,
My
really?
fear of
Okay.
going yeah, there's fear of judgment, criticism from our inner circle. Maybe it's family, maybe it's friends. Who is she to do this? She was a stay-at-home mom. Now she's online coaching. Now, for those listening, I did not start off as a business coach. I knew nothing about business. This is something that's evolved over the years of me being in entrepreneurship. And where you
Okay.
start, you may not stay in the same space that you're in maybe a year from now, 2 years from now, because as you evolve and grow, so will your business. But just that fear of judgment. Who is she to be doing whatever she's doing? So that fear of criticism, fear of judgment, fear of ridicule, fear of rejection, getting those no's. That's not easy for people to hear. It's like you're putting yourself out there. Say you want to be on a podcast and they tell you no. And now you're like, okay, well now I'm terrible. Like we take that personally when we shouldn't, right? There's fear of failure, fear of what are they going to say when I fail? They're going to be like, I told you so. you know? So there's that fear of failure, and there's also the fear of success, which can be just as strong for people as the fear of failure. Like, what happens if I do achieve what I want to achieve? Then how am I going to maintain that? And how am I going to maintain that pressure? And can I keep it going? There's also perfectionism. People get stuck in perfectionism. They want everything to be perfect because they're comparing themselves to other people and their
Right.
space. And they're like, oh my gosh, they look like this. They're crushing it. You know what? I'm not going to put anything out there and make my offers until I have everything perfect. And it won't ever be perfect.
Well, yeah, it's interesting you said that because I think, yeah, there's a lot of fear going into setting up your own business. You know, it's kind of like, and you hit the nail on the head, having two jobs and your why was your kids and yeah, going through a divorce sucks. I mean, you know, there's a loss of, you know, companionship. There's a loss of revenue. There's uh, I don't need to go on, but at any rate, so the financial insecurity is really huge.
Mm-hmm.
That plays a role in stepping up. This guy, I hope he doesn't listen to this podcast because I use him quite a bit. But so I took this friend of mine who started a cleaning business. I took him and his wife out for lunch, and because I saw him in church, and I said, "Hey, listen, how's your business doing?" And the look on his face was not very good. So I sat down in church, and then I texted him. I said, "Adam, let's have lunch with you and your wife." And I said, you know, just FYI, my rate is $2.50 an hour, but I'm going to give it to you for free. Okay. So I took him out to lunch, and I said, and he'd already spent like maybe $10,000 of putting money into the business and everything. And he came from a background and not knowing anything, and so I looked right here at his wife, and hey, how many hours a day does Adam put into this cleaning business? And she said, well, that's interesting. She smiled. She said about 2 hours a day. I said, Adam, I said, you're in for failure right there, dude. I mean, you know, you just started, you put all the stuff in. And I said, you put 2 hours a day in. And I said, you're not going to make it. He said, well, I can't sell. I said, oh, okay. Well, you're going to have to learn. So I said, check out all these places around here. And I said, guarantee that if you start doing about 10 cold calls a day in your business, you'll have somebody that says yes. Okay. So at any rate, I went on. I had to go to the clerk's office to do some things for a car or something. And I just happened to ask them the question. I said, hey, just by chance, who's cleaning your office? And she said, that's a good question. She said, we just lost our person. So I had another appointment, and I just happened to say, Elisa, who's cleaning your office? And she said, I'm glad you asked because we just lost she had an accident. And so I said, oh, okay. So I think what happens to entrepreneurs, just like you said, I think they get to a point where they think that it's going to be for money. They think that, you know, but there is freaking work to be done, and it's not going to come easy, and it's going to be a financial risk. You're not going to be able to pay the bills all the time on time. And being an entrepreneurship is very unpredictable. But I think just like you mentioned, I think you have to really push the buttons within yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think?
Absolutely. You have to push the buttons within yourself because it can be a lonely road. Like I work in my home, so I don't go to an office every day filled with people. I do have a team virtually, which is great. And we connect every Monday morning. We have our meeting. But that being said, you should be surrounding yourself with other people. Like, find community. You need to find mentorship and you need community. And it could be one and the same. You could find mentorship with a community, or you can find them separate. But having those people that you can go to when the days are hard, that you can reach out to and say, hey, I need support. I just need somebody to hold a bucket so I can just, spew for a few minutes. Or does anybody, I'm looking for an assistant. Does anybody have one that they can recommend? And also being there for other people, reciprocating that, because a lot of times when we get stuck on our stuff, the best we can sit in it and we can go down that rabbit hole. And I tell people all the time, the best thing to do in those moments is to shut it down and reach out to somebody and go, how can I help you? Because
Right.
when you're focused on someone else and helping someone else, you're out of your stuff. You can't be down in the dumps when you're helping other people.
Well, so basically, to start a business, there's some financial insecurity. There's a little lack of stability, unlike a traditional job, as you mentioned. Uh, there's a lot of pressure because you have bills, you have kids to put through college, and then the fear of failure, as you mentioned, overrides both components: fear of failure, fear of success, um, and then the lack of experience. And you hit a key thing about social pressures, because why is it, Heidi, why is it that when somebody sticks their freaking head above the clouds and reaches for the stars, that they think that's a stupid idea?
When somebody else thinks it's a stupid idea?
Yeah. So why? So like, I started multiple businesses and I've failed at some. But why do you think people think in terms of the social pressures? Why do you think somebody says, like you said, they said, oh, she used to be a stay-at-home mom. Why is she doing this and everything? But why do they criticize you when you want to reach for the stars?
Well, I don't know that is actually happening. That's our own self-talk. Like, that's what I told myself. I was thinking what they're probably saying, like, what is she doing? Who is she to do this? When at the end of the day, I realized I'm like, people aren't thinking about me as much as
Okay.
I think they're thinking about me. So, and
Okay.
I tell my clients all the time, and they're like, well, what are my family going to think? Or what are my friends going to think? I'm like, honestly, they're not thinking about you as much as you think they are. You're not that special. I had to learn I'm not that special where everybody's thinking about me all the time. They've got their own things going on. And so, but at the end of the day, there are people out there too, though, like that I think have told me, why don't you just get a 9 to 5? Why don't you just do that and build your nest egg and have the money coming in and just do that life? And I was like, but that's not enough for me. I'm not fulfilled doing that. I think for entrepreneurs, there's a purpose that drives us that we need to tap into to fulfill. And not everybody has it. And that's okay. Neither one is right or wrong. It's just right. It's right for each person. Right. But those people that do feel like that are like, why don't you just do this? Why are your head in the cloud? Get your head out of the clouds. Why are you trying to reach for so much? I think for many of them, it's not that they want to keep us down. I think it's that they're nervous for us and they want to protect us. They don't want to see
Okay.
us get hurt. I think they want to, like, especially if it's family or friends that love us, it's natural for them to want to protect us. They don't want to see us get hurt. They don't want us to go through that failure or that feeling of failure. So I think the majority of them want to protect us from that failure, from getting hurt. I don't think it's for most people, it's not a malicious reaction. It's more of a
Okay.
protective reaction.
Okay, so yeah, so that makes total sense, but I still think that there's I don't know, everybody. Okay, so I don't know how to phrase this, but what do you think the percentage of entrepreneurs, and maybe the demographics on the female side, what is their rate of success and what is their rate of failure starting a business?
I think it's like 95% of businesses fail within the first 2 to 5 years.
But is that female or is that just
I
general
think that's in
business?
general. I think it's in
Okay.
general. I don't know the specifics on female entrepreneurship, because I think female entrepreneurship is growing. So I don't really know what that statistic is off the top of my head, but that would be a great one to look up,
Yeah.
or to research. But yeah, and going back to your other point about, like, people saying maybe not being supportive of you, I that goes back to your network too. Like, your network is your net worth, and if you're not happy where your net worth is, look at your network. And it's time to decide which people get to stay in your circle and which people don't. So if you do have those people, I'm not saying get rid of your family if they're not supportive, but I am saying maybe it's you need to spend more time surrounding yourself with community that is supportive, and only sharing the family stuff with family, and keeping your goals and dreams and business stuff to the people who are there cheering you on and supporting you.
Okay, that's some good stuff. So how, if we have little fears of starting our business, how would you suggest that we overcome some of our fears going into business for yourself? Because I think what happens is that you're spot on in regards to, and I use that a lot, but I you know what, until the Lord takes me home, I will be an entrepreneur at heart. I do have that disease. Okay.
Mm.
If somebody comes to me and gives me an idea, I have it to market. I have it to a lot of different avenues. And I said, I'll handle your marketing for you. I mean, that's the intensity that I have. And so, but how does one overcome, like, you said you're sitting in a room and you're, kind of going through some trials and tribulations, and you said, well, I'm going to do this. What are some of the things that you have to go through in order to overcome your fears being an entrepreneur?
For me, look, I think stepping into the business wasn't super scary. I knew I wanted to do it. So actually opening the doors wasn't scary. Is everything after that. When I realized, oh, I got to show up and I got to do this. And then I was a little overwhelmed with all the steps. So when it comes to overcoming the fear, I'll start with my fear of being seen.
Okay.
I was called forward by someone. They saw me hiding, and she was very successful inside of this program that I had joined, this coaching program.
Okay.
And because that's one thing I did do, I got mentorship right out of the gate. Because like I said, I had no clue what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then so her and I became friendly. And so she called me forward and was like, I have a challenge for you. Will you accept it? And I was sure. How bad could this be? She goes, great. I want you to go live right now inside the Facebook group. And your topic is my breakdown to my breakthrough. Because she knew I was going to have a full on breakdown.
Oh, wow.
And
okay.
I was like, immediately my throat closed, my chest got tight. I started shaking and sweating. And I was like, I can't do that. And she's like, I'm here to support you, but I'm on the other side of the pond. It's after midnight here. Cause she was in England. I'm in Florida.
Yeah.
And she said, so you need to do it. If you're going to do it, you need to do it now. And I said, oh, and you committed. I said, okay. So I jumped in there and I'm shaking. I'm sweating.
Yeah.
I'm choking on my words. I'm starting to I started crying because I was
bless your heart.
emotional,
Yeah.
but I wasn't even crying. I was bawling.
Oh, wow.
My face started swelling. My eyes started swelling, and I started getting a migraine.
Wow.
And so now I got through it. And then I came back off of that, and she got back in the DM with me, and she was like, great job. I have another challenge for you. Will you accept it? And I was like, well, it can't be any worse than that because I feel like I'm going to die. And so I said, okay. And she said, great. I want you to go live the next 5 days in a row. And
Wow.
I said, good night. And I went to bed. The next morning I woke up, and I was scared to open up that Facebook group. But when I opened it, I saw hundreds of people supporting me and thanking me for showing up so vulnerably, thanking me for showing up and doing it scared. Now, and thanking me for inspiring them to step out of their comfort zone and do something scared that day. Many people shared with me they had the fear of going live, and now I've inspired them to step out of the comfort zone. And so I share that because the way to move through your fears is there's many different ways. And one, having somebody that has your back, surrounding yourself with people who are going to hold you high, see you more than you better than you see yourself. See what you're capable of more than you see it for yourself, and are going to push you out of your comfort zone and support you and hold you along the way. That's one way. Another way is baby steps, like challenging yourself to do one scary thing every day. At the end of the day, we're not going to die. Like I have a fear of heights. I'm not jumping out of a plane tomorrow, but I can take baby steps to get me over that fear or move through the fear of heights. So whatever the fear is in your business, identifying the fear is the first step. What is that fear? Is it fear of rejection? At the end of the day, the word no doesn't mean no. It means not right now.
Right.
And every no is one step closer to your yes. So when we can see it like that, it breaks down the fear. And now I get excited, like how many no's can I get? Because now I know I'm getting closer to my yeses,
Yeah.
So So that's just really recognizing what the fear is. Is it fear of, of that ridicule? Is it fear of, like I said, the rejection? Is it fear of failure? Is it fear of success? Once you identify what it is, then you can start taking the steps to overcome it, and you can acknowledge it, recognize it. Also recognize the feeling that comes up when that fear starts showing up for you. Because now when I start sweating and I start, my throat starts closing and I start shaking, my chest gets tight, I now know, like, I recognize that now, and I'm like, thank you. Thank you for showing up, because now I know this is what I must say yes to, because it's my next cut. Because if I don't move through it, then I'm not going to get to my next level. And I'm not happy I'm happy I love where I am, but I want more. And that fear is going to show up every time you're up leveling, every time you're stepping out of your comfort zone. So my thing is, find support, find a mentor, find a community, find people who are going to hold you accountable and push you through it, and not take your excuses. And also baby steps for yourself, to challenge yourself to move through that, and celebrate. Every time you have success, or you take a step forward, celebrate yourself. Don't wait until you've reached that big goal. Celebrate along the way.
Yeah, yeah. Treat yourself to a nice steak and a bottle of wine. I don't know. I mean,
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
I like that. I like that celebration, LJ. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, yeah. Get a steak and a bottle of wine. You'll be all right and everything. But I think as the process goes on, you have to educate yourself a lot, because I do a lot of research on different things, and I don't really get paid for doing the podcast. I've had a couple sponsors and everything. I don't know whether you heard. I just had Sugar Ray Leonard's son on, and
that's exciting.
Ray Leonard Jr. was on. He's quite an entrepreneur, and he's got I don't know, Mike Tyson is like a godfather to him. I mean, and I could go on and on, right? But I think, I think you do have to educate yourself. I think, I'm always in the mode of gathering up good information, bad information. And then, I think, did you do this? I got to ask this. Did you do like a small business plan, so that you had some kind of a target range, or was this all kind of like in your mind, and they would challenge you, and then you would say, oh, okay, I'm going to take this challenge?
I have a plan, and I teach goal setting inside of my program, as well as marketing strategy. I think it's really important that everyone has a marketing strategy for their business for the year. You need to know what your vision is for your business. Super important, because if you don't know where you're headed, how are you going to get there? Like, you don't have a direction. And you need to know what your goals are for your marketing. And then you need to be able to break those down and go, okay, these are my 3 goals for my business for the year. How are we going to get there? Am I building an email list? Okay, if I'm building an email list, then what am I doing to build that list? What are the things that I'm going to work on this year to build that list? What are my goals? What am I wanting to build it to? Am I wanting to start a podcast? Okay, great. Well, how does that look like? Do I need to, hire a producer? Or do I want to do this myself? Or, what's the breakdown of how I'm going to get there? So I think both are important, but business plan is important. And also marketing strategy is key.
Well, yeah, I think here's my deal. You correct me if I'm wrong, because you're the expert. And so, I have a friend of mine that's the president of he calls it the Alliance, but it's the Chamber of Commerce. I just don't think, I might be wrong, and if he hears this, he'll probably call me or something. But I don't know whether or not, Heidi, that the Chamber of Commerce or other business entities would give out the cool information that we just discussed. I don't think there's and then there's the SBDC. I mean, I know the person that is over that for the state of Kentucky, and they have little classes that people can go to. But I think that there's a huge need in the business world, and some people will say, oh, I've already reached the epitome of my company. I've reached, but I've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs that um, just want to talk, and I appreciate your forums that you've established, so they can interact. I don't think the Chamber of Commerce and those kind of activities are really helping the small business person. Am I right or wrong?
Well, I work mainly with people online. I can work with brick and mortar who are coming online, but I don't work with specifically brick and mortar companies. So I can't say whether, Chamber of Commerce, I'm sure they have value for certain businesses.
But they
Um,
don't they don't give the coaching. They don't give, they don't have this kind of involvement from experience.
then maybe that's maybe a place I need to go then to support that need if that's what they need.
No, no,
But I,
I'm really giving you an idea because I think it's
yeah.
important. I mean, when I left Kentucky, I had lunch with the director, and I said, Scotty, I said, listen, I said I was going to do something for you, but because I'm leaving, I just may not do this for you. So I said, I'm available if you want to have me consult businesses and everything. I'll put together a package, and then they can be on my podcast for a fee. So I give you that idea so you can run with it. Okay.
No,
Um,
yeah, thank you.
but I think also I think when you take a look at marketing and everything, I think it takes on people say, well, I got to sell in order to market. No, they're two different things. Okay.
Mhm.
You have to learn the relationship of a person. And so I always say, if you have a good marriage, you'll probably be good in sales. I don't
Yes.
know. Yeah. Right. I mean,
Well,
I
yeah,
mean,
I agree because you're rolling each other into, that. So it's that open communication. So I completely understand what you're saying and I agree with you. And I
yeah,
heard a lot of people are like, well, I need my offer. I need my program all put together. I need my course laid out. I need to create everything before
nah,
I go out to market. And I'm like, no, you're doing it reversed. You're
right.
spending all this time creating when you should be out getting attention. So I learned this by Grant Cardone. It's like, you have your idea, now you need to get attention. And that's what I
Yeah.
teach. I teach being seen, visibility, because you need to be visible. You need to be putting yourself out there, getting attention, and then getting information about your target market. The more you know about them, find out what the gap, what's missing for them, right? And then create your offer around that gap. Because
Focus on the
obviously
value. Yeah. Focus on the
focus
value,
on the
right?
value and the gap, right, and the solution that you're providing and understanding their problem better than they know that they have for themselves. You understand their problem better than they do, and you're providing that solution that's missing in the market that they've been wanting.
Grant Cardone, man, I tell you what. I mean, I've seen him in person at a conference I was in, and I think it was Nashville. I can't remember, but at any rate, I mean, he rocks and rolls. Okay, I mean, when he talks about financial success and everything, and he talks about what to do, and he doesn't have this, but I don't know. I mean, I love to watch him, and I like to listen to him quite a bit. I mean, I'm on his mailing list, and so
Mm-hmm.
but I think it all boils down to this. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that being in business for yourself, there's a lot of things to consider, and I think and I always tell everybody this. I said, I don't know, there's a difference between religion and church and things. And I said, one of the things that you need to rely on is your faith in Christ in order to take you through the muddy waters. There's no perfect way. God never gave us the green light and says, because if you believe in me, you'll have the road to success. Okay. Because that's not the way he does things. What he does is he puts a path out there in front of you, and you systematically have to go through those doors. Okay. And so everything that we've talked about are those doors that we create until they shut. Then we have to be willing to open up another door in order to go through that door in order to see what he has for us. So I think that everything that we talked about, I think we have to embrace trial and error as a component of all of this in order to be successful. Your thoughts?
Absolutely. Action brings clarity. So if you don't know what to do, the worst thing that you could do is nothing. So take action, and then that action will bring you clarity. Am I going in the right direction, or do I need to readjust? So every time you take action, more clarity shows up, and more doors, like you said, will start opening. More people will show up to support you, and more doors, opportunities will start showing up that you get to choose. Am I going to get the ROI do I believe I'm going to get the ROI on this that I want to? Do I believe, is this aligned with my vision for my business? That's why I talked about vision before with your marketing strategy. Is this event, is this thing that I want to say yes to, is it aligned with my vision and my mission? If it is, then it's a heck yes. If it's not, then it's a no, and you keep going forward.
Yeah. And so I really, the reason why I enjoy my podcast is because of the demographics that I have. And, it's kind of like I've developed a curriculum. I mean, I can have somebody from a year ago, talk about CPA stuff. And then I've got downloads from all over the world, and I've got people from all over the country listening to that particular podcast. And so, as you well know, I mean, it's like there's a business curriculum that's being developed and everything. And so I think you're right. I think you have to be very sensitive about walking through those doors. But I think that people ought to know more about mentorship, and they ought to feel comfortable being part of a mentorship group. And so I think, embracing the trial and error, visualizing success and celebrating small wins, practicing consistency is really critical, because if you bust your butt, I just share this. This is kind of crazy. I was in the telecommunication business, and how I got to the telecommunication business was I knew nothing about it, and so I would take pizza down to the technicians in the switch room, and I would sit there for hours at lunchtime, and I would listen to what they say about the technology of that switch. I did that for a couple of days, maybe a week or so. Then I went out and I made sales calls. I made 100 sales calls in 1 week. And after I did that for 1 week, I had no longer had to have a customer in my funnel. It all came because of those cold calls in 1 week. So I say, just like, the persistency, we all want to fail, or we think we're going to fail, or we don't want to fail. We want to succeed. But excuse me, kudos to you for being that coach, and kudos for you to focus in on females, because I don't know whether females are better than males in business, but I think that you guys are multitaskers, and it makes it better to be a multitasker than a man. He works in boxes, and he sees things in those frames, and he hates to get outside those boxes. And so it's kind of a challenge for the men, to go through that and everything. So in kind of summarizing, what do you think, how would you summarize all the chat that we've had today?
I would say, fear is always going to show up. It's always going to be, if you don't have any fear right now in your world, in your business, then you are not growing. You're not evolving. You're not moving forward. You're kind of like comfortable where you are, and you're in your comfort zone. So the fear is going to when the fear shows up, embrace it. And that's your sign that you're about to go to your next level, and you get to move through it, and recognizing it, acknowledging it, and then putting a name to it, and then taking the steps to move forward, whether it's by, having people that can support you around it, about you getting to, challenging yourself to take baby steps on moving forward with it, celebrating yourself, along the way. Having a network is really, really important. Collaborations when it comes to growing your business is key. Connection is currency. Yeah. Collaborations is currency. And collaborations are formed through building relationships and connections. So if you really want to grow your business and you're not connecting with people, whether it's, your ideal client, your audience, and other entrepreneurs, then you are going to struggle, and you're going to lone wolf this, and lone wolfing it is going to keep you, more on track of the failure track than on the successful track. So I'm a big believer, and I say it, all the time in my space. collaborate, network, and, build those relationships and create those connections and get in front of other people's audiences, other people's stages, and invite people into yours.
So Heidi,
and like you said,
yeah, go ahead.
consistency is key too.
Yeah.
Like you said, I was like, that's spot on. Find one strategy. That's really important. Find one strategy that you believe in that can take your business to where you want it to go, and stay consistent with it. Too many entrepreneurs will try one thing one time.
Right?
That didn't work. And then they'll try something else another time. That didn't work. And then they'll try. So they're constantly throwing spaghetti at the wall, hoping something sticks the first time.
Right?
And most time you make your offer the first time, people aren't going to be a yes. People need to hear your offer over and over and over again. First time you host an event, you may not have anybody show up. It doesn't mean you don't do it again. You do it again. Right?
Yeah. So if I can't sell these pencils, I'll sell rubber bands. And if I can't sell rubber bands, I'll sell a deck of cards. And I'll deal everybody a hand, right? Because I think that the keys to all of this is that there's a systematic process of being in business for yourself, as you kind of capsulated, if I say that right, and its form. It doesn't matter really what you're selling. It comes from the heart, what you're selling. And then everything else ties around to that. So, but I tell you what, I think we need to do is we need to incorporate a entrepreneur association. I know there's several, but I would love to create one so that we can kind of focus in on this main issue of communicating. And you've already done that with some Facebook stuff and everything. But I think to set up a 501c3 or whatever, and I'm reaching out to some businessmen that may be of interest to that. But thank you so much, Heidi, for your insights. Kudos for you to develop something from nothing and putting it together and growing through your business in order to be successful and being on the 100 top women's list in the country speaks volumes. And so I really thank you for joining us today. And any more last insights that you would have before we turn off the pause button?
Thank you, LJ, for having me. I'm so grateful to be here. This has been an amazing conversation. I love being with you and all your insights too about helping people with their business. I do have a free market strategy template. Would that be okay to share?
Yeah.
Okay. So we did talk about market strategy today. So in goal setting. So if you would like to grab the goal setting and templates, I have a lot of them that I help you walk through and break down the goals, as well as the market strategy template. You can go to HeidiSchalk.com. It's on my website. It's free. You can just grab it and, put your market strategy in place. So
say that one more time.
Yeah.
Well, say that one more time. Say the website one more time.
It's my name, HeidiSchalk.com. So HeidiSchalk.com.
And she's giving you a bunch of free stuff. Okay. That's awesome and everything. So listen, you have a blessed day. Stay out of the waters that are shark infested and enjoy the weekend.
Thank you, you too.
Take care.